What does it mean to be a conscious creator? How do we live our lives every single day a little bit more consciously? How do we tune in to our spiritual gifts? How do we tap into purpose? And how do we find what the real meaning of our time here is? These are all things we're exploring in this week's episode with Howie. I know you're going to love Howie because I have absolutely adored every single thing that he's said that I've heard. From TikTok to Instagram, he has so many amazing tips for people who are in the spiritual space to develop your consciousness a little bit further and to tune into who you really, really are. Howie is a conscious content creator sharing his experiences from walking the spiritual path. He's committed to following the thread of passion and excitement available in each present moment. Some of these passions include making spiritual videos, creating music, spending time in nature, and learning from a variety of spiritual teachers. This conversation was so eye-opening, so enlightening, and shows that there are so many different perspectives if you choose to see it from a different lens. I invite you to join me in this conversation with Howie and learn all of the incredible insight and wisdom that he has to share with us today. Hi, Howie. Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Hi, Simona. Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited as well.
It's going to be such a great conversation. I cannot wait to have it. I want to first dive in by asking you, what do you think happiness is and what does it mean to you?
Well, I think happiness is a state of being that ultimately is a choice. So independent of external circumstances, we can still choose happiness. And I know sometimes that seems impossible, but when we get forced externally, internally, we learn to cultivate happiness, and then our reality becomes a mirror of the happiness that we've now embodied. So for each person, happiness might feel different. It's going to be unique to you. That's what's awesome. When you follow the breadcrumbs of happiness, that's your higher self communicating, saying, this is what you want to do. Go do it. We have to get through the limiting beliefs of why we can't be happy. What are the excuses for why we can't be happy?
I really like that lens that you've just put it through, especially thinking about that happiness really does come like from the inside, and then all these external things are weighing down on us, not allowing us to access that happiness within us. Now, so what would you say to someone, who wants to be happy, who wants to be able to enjoy their life every single day, who really wants to be able to bring all of that into their own existence, but maybe they're so bogged down with the external reality, the way the world is, not being able to leave where they are, maybe being stuck in a job that they don't love. Like on one side, it's like easy to say, yeah, it's from the inside out, but then it's a whole other like scenario to actually do it, right?
Yeah, well, that's the hard part, is unwinding the limiting beliefs that are telling you that you can't be happy. We have these things oftentimes handed down from our parents, from teachers when we're young and impressionable. So we start to look at reality through the lens of, I have to struggle. So we get conditioned to struggling as opposed to acting on what genuinely makes us happy or what makes us feel passionate. So it starts with just little things. I mean, if you're bogged down in a job you really don't like, you have to start acting on things that genuinely make you feel good. Like that could be as simple as playing with your dog or just getting some sunshine. It doesn't have to be some big dramatic career shift or anything like that. You build up those present moments where you're choosing happiness, and then eventually you start prioritizing happiness more and more in your life. And then pretty soon you get to a point where you're not really doing that much that's not in the state of happiness or excitement or joy because it's not aligned with you. And you realize that being in that state is what actually attracts that timeline into your life. So you don't have to try or struggle like we're conditioned to thinking. You can just stay in that state of being and know that anything that shows up while you're in that state of being is a part of your happiness.
That's really beautifully put. I love that you really sort of you've taken it and you brought it back down to its original state of what it truly is, because I think a lot of the times people think that in order to achieve happiness or be happy in their life, that it has to be all of this external stuff. It has to be, huge change in life, when the reality is it's really just sort of weaving those moments of joy into your life every single day, and like, you know, coming back home to what is it that actually lights you up and like makes you excited every single day, right? Like it doesn't need to be moving to halfway across the world if that's not what you want to do.
100%. It doesn't have to be dramatic. And I think that's where some people might feel like I have to make such a huge change in my life. It's like, if you're in a job that you really don't like, you're probably not quite ready to just jump out of it and jump ship. So you should probably start just incorporating things that make you happy and let the process unfold, because you're learning a lot by being in that job that you don't like. So we don't want to like start bashing the job because it's there to teach you.
Yeah.
But you're in a process of transforming what you don't like into a reality that you do like. And that's not easy. You know, it's simple in nature, but it's definitely hard to go against the grain and start prioritizing your own happiness.
Definitely. And do you think that people kind of make things bigger than they actually are? Like, I don't know how to explain it more than the fact that like sometimes, you know, we look at our lives and it's like, can feel so overwhelming because none of it really feels aligned. I think about this often. Like, this is going to sound insane, okay? And maybe it's probably not. It's probably the truth. I don't know. But let's say all of the aliens are watching us, okay? And they're like looking down on us and they're like, oh my God, look at these people just like constantly like running and going and going and going. At the end of the day, like all that really matters is that you've enjoyed like your time here. Like we are all here for a purpose. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes it just gets so blown out of like the water. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Totally. I think from a higher perspective, like our higher self looking down on us, or another being looking down on us that's of a higher vibration that is embodying more of the intelligence, the infinite intelligence that exists, looks at us with eyes of innocence, like little kids throwing tantrums. It's almost endearing and kind of funny from that perspective. And we're taking it so serious down here when it's a lot more lighthearted. And that's not undervaluing, you know, real human emotion. That's real as an experience, but it's more of like, for lack of a better word, like a simulation or a school where you're here to learn. As part of it, you do have a purpose, like you have a theme that you're learning about. So the things you struggle with typically is a part of your theme that you're learning to transform that darkness into light. So that's why you struggle in that particular area. And you can have multiple themes nowadays, which is pretty cool, but it's way more lighthearted because when you do transition back to spirit, it's kind of like waking up from a dream. And then you're like, what did I learn from the dream? So it's really about learning and evolving and getting to see the universe from a new perspective. That's why we don't remember a lot of this stuff when, you know, we're going through this process, because we'd see right through it. So part of this whole thing is your physical mind doesn't know nearly as much as your higher mind. So it's expanding to remember more of what it is. So there's lots of different reasons. And some people come here just to drink beer on the beach. You know, it's not always so mission oriented either. That's why we can't try and shove our belief systems down someone's throat. And it can be an offering if it's in resonance.
That's such a good point. You touched on something that's so key there, especially with all of the, you know, without going too deep in what's going on in the world, not because I don't want to talk about it, just because I feel like it's just a small part of our conversation today. I just feel like if there was, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, like if there was more understanding from people, like, okay, I'll tell you an example. Like I was watching TikTok, of course, and I was watching this video of this guy, and he was standing on, you know, the corner of the street, and he says, I love you no matter what your beliefs, what you choose, what you this, what you, and people are walking by and they're like, you're disgusting, like you disgust me, you're so nasty, like that. And I'm just like, this man is literally standing here telling you that he loves everybody no matter what. And people are actively choosing to say like, I hate you and I can't stand you. And it's like, first of all, you don't even know this person. Second of all, like, and it just makes me think like, it made me really sad for the world, because it's like, wow, there's actually people who live like this. You know what I mean? But then on like the flip side of that, like we're not all here, like you said, for the same mission. Like we're not all here to do the exact same thing. So when all of these things happen in the world, like it's not everyone's like duty in where they are in life to be the voice of reason, to be the change maker, to be the this, the that. Like we all have our own internal responsibilities, I think, but not everyone will have the same role. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, we're all unique puzzle pieces of a much bigger puzzle.
Mm,
And we're kind of taught that we're supposed to change our shape instead of embracing who we actually are.
mm,
Because when we all embrace who we are, the puzzle can be completed. But when we're all trying to change our shape, the configuration gets thrown off. And some people are not here to wake up in this particular incarnation. They're going, I mean, always have the potential, but even if they go through their entire life being asleep and being in the darkness, you still learn so much from doing that. So when
mm,
they transition back, when they wake up from this dream, it's not it's not that big of a deal because it's like, thank you actually for spending your whole time in hell because you just collected so much information and a whole new perspective. So it's just not that serious and it's not condoning that type of behavior. What's amazing is if you can wake up and become consciously aware of what's actually going on, then physical reality becomes more like a lucid dream.
mm,
So you're just following your higher mind who's communicating through your heart, through the feelings of happiness, passion, freedom, whatever is important to you. And you
mhm.
just follow that. And then the garden blossoms automatically. It's already built into you. So you don't have to struggle. It's like you're in the current of the river.
Exactly. It's so true. And it's kind of like when you finally like sort of tap into your full self, if you will, you kind of realize that things don't have to be as hard as we make them, you know? And
They
it
don't.
makes for such a simpler way of living. Like when you take off all of these different conditions and all of these different things that we make ourselves do every single day, money, job, status, title, this, car, 25 kids, like 5 kids, like, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff. It's like at the end of the day, those things don't really matter. And so I guess my question to you in all of that is, you know, you've had quite a few life experiences that have really transformed the way that you know, look at life, like how you live life and all of this different stuff. And so I want to know, how has your life changed since adopting this view through your higher self? Like how has your life changed?
Well, you mentioned it becomes a lot more
Mm-hmm.
simple. And I've been an entrepreneur. I don't really identify as much with that label anymore, but I did online business for years before my spiritual awakening. And, I was burning myself out and really running myself into the ground, chasing money and success essentially.
Always.
So that was exhausting. And I really
Mm-hmm.
got to a point where it's like, I just am not happy doing this. Like, I'd rather be broke and happy than continue doing it this way where it's just not fun at all. Like, I'm not excited to wake up. So that was kind of the turning point emotionally, where it's like, I need to find a different way. I don't want to keep doing it this way anymore. And then at that point, I had to almost go to the completely other side of the spectrum where I had to start doing everything just from a place of pure intention and not because it might get me something or with strings attached. So I went like full philanthropic, just making free stuff. And I'm like, if I'm meant to have money, like my higher self will support me in this. And if I'm not, there's a good reason why
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. But I believe that my higher self wants the best for me. So I really just trusted that. And it does take time when you make that initial
Yeah.
jump. So you have to be really just committed to doing what you love just for the sake of enjoying it and not
Mm-hmm.
because it might get you something. And you just keep going, you just keep planting seeds in that garden. And then eventually the reflection that's portrayed by your reality does shift to that new vibrational state because you showed to your reality that you are going to be happy no matter what's happening externally. And when you really get to that point, that's when the mirror changes. You have to smile first before your reflection will smile back.
Yeah.
And in the space-time continuum, that can take linear time.
Mm.
It could, for me, it took like 6 months from stopping that side of the business to really, from the higher self perspective, being provided for.
Mm.
So there was a 6-month period where it's like, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I just kept going and I just kept having faith that it was going to work. And then I've been blown away these past couple of years with how everything's synchronistically come together without me having to lift a finger or do anything that's out of alignment.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And it's so powerful that you say that because like I had a similar experience.
I want to say, like, I mean, I've been in the entrepreneur space now for like more than 3 years. I'm still kind of new to it, but I just left my job in 2020 because I was like, you know what? Like, why not? But long story short, it's about really listening to those like internal nudges that when you decide that I'm going to do something different and I want to live on purpose instead of as part of something that I don't feel aligned to anymore, you're really listening into those little internal nudges that are pushing you and kind of guiding you into your soul's direction and the way that it's supposed to go. And what I love so much about having conversations like this is that there's so many people who don't understand what that feels like and what like actual fulfillment feels like. And it makes me like sad that the whole world doesn't get to feel that, but also, like you said before, it's not everyone's mission to feel that in this lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And I think it makes people more judgmental when you're not. I don't know, that may be a generalization, but
well, I mean, there's, you know, judgment's just, it's just a part of a lower vibrational reality, and there's nothing really wrong with that. As you ascend up the vibrational scale, you actually start to have more compassion for people that are kind of stuck in those lower vibrational realities, because you know that they're actually doing a lot of the grunt work, so to speak, you know, because without the darkness, this particular density can't exist. So you do need to have a balance of darkness and light in this particular one. So some people have to take that responsibility. And again, from a higher perspective, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
it's like everyone takes turns, and it's not so serious. But there is a formula that can be helpful. That really, I was doing this before I like found out about this formula of how reality actually works. But it was cool to see like, oh, that's why it actually worked. So the first one is act on your passion. Again, that doesn't mean it has to be some big career thing. It could just be, I want to go for a walk right now. That feels the best to me. So in as many present moments as you can, you act on your passion. You have no insistence on what the outcome's supposed to be. So don't do it for something. Unattach from what it's supposed to get you, and trust that your higher self knows more than your physical mind does. The third thing is do it to the best of your ability. So don't act on something that you don't really have the ability to act on. And then the fourth thing is, no matter what manifests, find the wisdom and find the lesson from it as if it's happening for you. Because anything negative, we're giving it that meaning. Everything's inherently neutral. We get to decide the meaning we give it. For example, I got COVID really, really intensely. I was bedridden for 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And I could have played the victim and assigned a negative meaning, but I was like, this is an upgrade for my higher self. Like, I'm getting all this time to heal and reflect. And that was the meaning I gave it. So for me, that's the reality.
Yeah.
So when we start looking at especially challenging situations as, this is me being tested to see if I can find the light in this dark situation. And if you can, you upgrade yourself so much, you quantum leap yourself into a different version of who you are, that life becomes a lot easier.
That's so beautiful. Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better.
Thank you.
And what, if you could share, is a realization that you had from that time, you know, that time that you spent upgrading and really turning back inwards?
There was a lot of stuff. Like, I had a lot of grief and anger that had kind of been congested in my heart, but like stuck. I knew it was there for a long time, but I got like really good cries in, like when I'm just in bed, like weeping. So that was such like an amazing actual release. I was like, finally, I let that stuff go, whatever it was. I don't even know exactly what I was holding on to. So that was huge. Also, I had major shortness of breath. And so I was having all these realizations of how our breath is literally how we stay connected to spirit. So like having these respiratory issues is essentially your higher self giving you the experience of disconnection from your higher self, so that you can really see how much light you've embodied in a lower vibrational plane. So I was like, whoa, that's pretty interesting. Like, if we start looking at disease in a different way, it's like, this is all actually an upgrade. It was like, we're shutting the computer down and taking it to the shop for this upgrade.
We're plugging it back in.
Yeah. So those were a couple things, but there's so much, and I'm still integrating, I took, I was doing daily videos, spiritual videos, and then I got sick. And then I was kind of thinking, okay, I'm going to get back into it like right away. And the message, even to this day, has been like, whoa, slow down. You're still integrating from this. You don't need, because it's almost like your ego. Like, I've done it so many days in a row and I need
Yeah.
to keep doing it, instead of just honoring it's not time and really listening to that and letting it, just sitting there sometimes and being okay with that. I think that's one of the big things I've learned through being bedridden as well. It's like, you can't get up. Like, there's no choice.
Exactly. And you know what? That's such a good point too, because it's like once we start one thing, it's so easy to constantly continue and have to go. And you're like, okay, but this is how I've been doing it. This is what works, and so on, so on. And I always feel like the universe is like, no, you know what I mean? It's too much. You're doing too many things, or maybe you don't need to share this message in this way, in this frequency, in this amount of time. I found myself in a similar situation back in January of last year, where I was doing daily lives, like going live every single day, free coaching people. And it was awesome for what it was. And then I took a stand. I was like, I can't do this for months on end every single day. At some point, you have to protect like your energy, and you have to protect like your output that you're putting out into the world. And so I think that's why what I love so much about podcasts is that you get to share the message that you want to share intentionally. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you get to bring that to life. And then, you're not having to do like 45 a week. You know what I mean?
And that's great when you're excited about it. But I think that's where it comes back to, how do I genuinely feel about this? Because sometimes it might be like, yeah, go do videos for a few months because we want you to, like, there's so many gifts and stuff that you're going to be activating through doing it.
Oh yeah.
But then it's like, okay, you passed third grade. You don't need to keep doing third grade.
Exactly.
Like, there might, we don't know what's going to come in fourth grade. So it's like remaining open. That's why we have to trust the thread of excitement and passion, because it might not make any sense on paper. It really might be all over the place, where it's like you're doing this and you're doing that, but you're only doing it because of the act of doing it makes you excited. That's it. Like, you're not doing it because it might result in something that your physical mind is trying to control. So it's like, when you open up all the doors, you just trust that your higher self knows more than you do. Then you just follow that and everything just happens. And it's really, I know it sounds extremely woo-woo, but that's why you have to take that formula and just practice with it, so you can start seeing the changes in your life. And then that kind of compounds until there's no other way you want to live, because it's so much more in flow. Exactly. You're not struggling to achieve what your physical mind thinks it wants to achieve.
Exactly. And on one side, yes, it can sound very woo-woo. Luckily, everyone who listens to this podcast is through that lens. But, at the same time, like, it also has that scientific background in it too, right? And it's just kind of like, what I'm so grateful that I've realized in my life is that all of these different things can coexist together, and not one thing is wrong and not one thing is right. You know what I mean? Like, they just exist. And like you said before, like, you need to have light and dark to exist together simultaneously, right? And so you'll always have like the things that don't make sense to people, and then you'll have the things that like make perfect sense to people. And I feel like it just kind of has to exist that way. And I just feel personally so lucky that I get to see it through the lens and like not be judgmental of all of everybody else's beliefs, because like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. If we all I wish everyone could just be a little bit kinder and more understanding to what other people believe. And I think we would live in such a crazy, beautiful place, but I don't think that'll ever be the case.
Yeah, well, it's like, where we come from is the bigger beings that we are, the spiritual beings that we are. Like, that's already how it is.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of redundant to come here and experience something that's exactly the same as where you just came from.
Very true.
So it's like, this separation and segregation and darkness, that's unique to this particular plane of existence. So that's what makes it an acceleration school. With that contrast, you can use it as a springboard to learn. Because without contrast, you don't really know what your ideal reality would look like. For example, you just said, my ideal reality would have, more harmony in people respecting each other's beliefs. Great. You wouldn't know that unless you saw the divisiveness and hatred and shaming going on.
Yeah.
So that's like, when you just look at it for that, it's like, oh, it's just showing me what I don't neutrally prefer. Like my reality, I'd rather have it this way.
Yeah.
And like, it just takes the story out of it. It's just energy really at the end of the day. Oh, I don't really like that type of darkness in my reality. Cool. So what's the opposite of that? All right, I'm going to focus on that instead, take action on those things, because the action is what grounds the information being sent from your higher self. For example, if you feel excited about something and you don't act on it, your higher self's like, well, they're not listening. So they can keep going to the job they hate when I'm clearly showing that they would rather paint a picture or something, but they're not doing it. So why would I give them more?
Exactly.
They're still learning what they need to learn in this particular environment. So there's no point of giving more. And then people wonder why more is not coming in. It's because you're not taking the action on what you know you need to do. So again, it doesn't mean you have to go quit your job unless you feel really called to do that, but it doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be, but you can kind of have one foot in your old world and one foot in the new world that you're creating, and just honor that process, knowing that there's nowhere to really get to. Like the journey is the destination. That's what I've learned through this. Like it's exciting just to learn more of who you are.
Yeah. It's so true. And I feel like it also opens up this opportunity for like intentionally listening to what is coming through your mind. Like for people who can't quite grasp what it feels like, really thinking about like, what's coming through your mind, and like whatever thought comes through, it's kind of like, oh, do I like this? Oh, yes, I do. Okay, follow that. You know what I mean? Oh, do I like this? Yeah, okay, give that a try. It's about like intentionally listening to your own self. And I think that that's so beautiful, which is so amazing.
And also understanding that it's like, let's say you do follow your excitement and then something that you don't neutrally prefer happens to you. Still understanding that that's part of your excitement, and it's kind of a test to see if you can view that as exciting. It's like, oh, here's a challenge. That's exciting because I know challenges have the biggest upgrades with them. So I'm going to learn so much from this particular challenge. That's how you make it exciting. So then there's nothing that can happen that's not exciting to you. And when you really live there, then that's when you get to witness the movie of more and more exciting things happening in your life.
I love that. That is so beautifully put. Honestly, Howie, this has been such a great conversation, and I've learned so much from you. And I want to end on this question, and it's a question that I've been asking all of my guests for as long as the podcast has been in existence. And it's, how can someone live, a happier life every day starting today?
I would say start prioritizing things that make you happy. Do that right when you wake up. Don't wake up and answer emails unless that makes you happy.
That's true.
Get out and go watch the sunrise, or get barefoot on the grass. Do something that makes you feel connected, because I find if you prioritize happiness first, you're more likely to make choices that are in alignment with happiness throughout your day, as opposed to starting off from a place of fear or stress. Your day is more likely to follow kind of the way you start it. So that's why morning routines are important. But find something that's fun. It doesn't have to be something that you got off the internet. It can be simple. It's just like, what makes me happy? Even if it's, drinking a cup of coffee. I like coffee. Some people don't. That's fine. It's like, what makes you happy? What makes you feel excited to wake up? Find that thing and just do it, because for the simple act that it makes you happy.
I love that. That's so important. For me, it's green tea. I've never been a coffee drinker. It makes me way too hyped. But green tea, oh my gosh, my cup of green tea in the morning is like my favorite thing. I can't start my day without it. It's my favorite thing.
It's perfect. It's like, it's your own little ritual, and everyone can make their own. I think that's so important. Make it your own. There's not one way to do this. Everyone's unique in what makes them happy. So just craft your own lifestyle around what makes you happy and prioritize it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And where can our listeners find you so that they can learn more about you?
So Instagram and TikTok are my main platforms that I post content. So at Happy Howie 11 is my handle for both of those.
Amazing.
So I should be getting back into posting content in the
Whenever
near
you feel
future.
like it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I love it, but yeah, I'm honoring myself too.
Yeah.
So we'll
We all
kind of
have
see
those
what happens.
seasons. Those
Yeah,
seasons
but
are
there's
so
tons of
important.
content already. So
Oh yeah.
for anyone that wants to learn more about the stuff we talked about, I have hundreds of videos.
I
So
love it.
check that out.
Yeah, your content is amazing, and I can only imagine what's going to come through you once this period of processing is.
Yeah, we'll see. I know
like,
that
I'm so excited.
it has been interesting. Yeah, we'll see if it changes or what the difference is, but I'm definitely excited.
Exactly. Oh, I am too. Thank you again so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Simona.
Oh,
Take
you're
care.
so welcome. Thanks everyone for tuning into the podcast this week. I hope you loved this episode as much as I did. Have a wonderful, wonderful day ahead. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.